Working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect. Why are you having me here?
I don't have to have you here. That's one thing that we can make clear. That's one thing we can make clear.
What happened to Danity Kane? Why did the band break up?
I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me, not talent-wise, but in other areas. At the very end, he fired me.
Aubrey O'Day is going to be a witness testifying against Diddy.
Why did Aubrey O'Day finally speak out? Her mysterious posts and sudden arrival in NYC could be the turning point in the Diddy case.
To Us Weekly, Aubrey O'Day is set to testify in the Diddy trial. So according to Us Weekly, former Danity Kane singer Aubrey O'Day is set to testify in the Sean Diddy Combs high-profile trial. A source confirmed to us that O'Day was subpoenaed and has traveled to New York City to testify sometime this week or next. She's already here this week, but I don't believe she'll be able to testify this week because Cassie probably will be testifying all day tomorrow.
I am a very strict and focused businesswoman because working for Diddy for 6 years trained me to have to be perfect.
Working for Diddy?
Absolutely.
I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that question.
The deal that we were offered, and when I say we, not every artist got it. Like Day 26 did not get it. But this is what it is. You can have your rights back to your music after Puff went under and somebody else bought our catalog. So this is long after we have 2 double platinum albums, $14, $15 an album from 2 million albums is, what is the math on that? 48 million?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm a mathematician, but maybe.
So $48 million somebody made on me.
About Aubrey O'Day being a witness testifying against Diddy, and I think the reports are 100% true, even though it's not been confirmed by the government. Aubrey O'Day did in fact touch down in New York City yesterday, and she posted this to her Twitter 2 days ago. You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice. What you've hidden, denied, or feared will no longer fit the shape of who you are becoming. Doors that once ignored you will now open, not because you knock louder, but because you carry the authority of alignment. You were not late, you were right on time. And everything you thought was a detour was actually divine preparation. Stay rooted, speak clearly, and the shift is already in motion.
Just days before being spotted in New York City, Aubrey O'Day posted a cryptic tweet that quickly drew attention. The message read, "You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice. What you've hidden, denied, or feared will no longer fit the shape of who you are becoming." Fans immediately interpreted this as a subtle yet bold statement, a sign that Aubrey was ready to confront something major. The tweet continued, "Doors that once ignored you will now open, not because you knock louder, but because you carry the authority of alignment." This wasn't a casual post. It felt strategic, powerful, and timed for maximum impact. Now, with her arrival in NYC coinciding with the ongoing case involving Diddy, everything seems to be aligning in a way that demands attention. Aubrey's past connection to Diddy runs deep. As a former member of Danity Kane, she worked directly under him during a highly influential era in the music industry. Over the years, she's spoken openly about the strict control and intense management style she experienced, describing an environment that often stifled both creativity and individuality. That history places her in a unique position. Few people were as close to the inner workings of Diddy's business as she was, and few are better positioned to speak on what really happened behind the scenes. What's making headlines now is her timing. Aubrey's arrival in New York during the first week of the trial sparked immediate speculation. Was she there to testify? Did she hold critical information? The questions only grew louder as her name began surfacing in connection with key allegations, especially those tied to Cassie Ventura. For years, Diddy has been accused of using his influence to control the narrative around his brand, often dismissing or discrediting those who spoke out. But Aubrey isn't following that script. Her decision to step forward, whether through social media or a potential courtroom appearance, has already shifted the energy around this trial. This isn't just about her past. It's about what she represents, a challenge to the systems of silence and control that have existed for far too long in the entertainment industry. Her courage could inspire others to speak up. The question remains, What is she ready to reveal? If her tweet was any indication, Aubrey O'Day may be prepared to share everything. Her testimony could hold the kind of details that change the course of the case, and possibly the industry, and she's not the only one. Another key figure, Dawn Richard, is also expected to step forward. Her voice may add even more strength to the growing call for accountability. In the next segment, we'll break down Dawn Richard's role and what her story could mean for the outcome of this trial.
I just want to throw you the facts, okay?
Sure.
So this is long after we have 2 double platinum albums, $14, $15 an album from 2 million albums is, what is the math on that, 48 million? And this benevolent man who's just now had a change of heart and has decided to pay us as talent. We only get the amounts due since Sony bought our catalog.
Okay.
So streaming for the past couple years, it's about $800, $900. I have to sign an NDA that I will never disparage Puff, Bad Boy, Janice Combs, or Justin Combs' music, or EMI, or Sony ever in public. I would like to do a documentary for Hulu or Netflix or Amazon, a streaming site. I offered some of the girls, hey, if you need $800-900, I'll give it to you. Don't sign this.
The fact that the kids are marching up to that court, praying over everything and walking in with a bunch of women also that are encouraging it. I don't know any father that would want their children to sit through testimony about how much their daddy liked to watch people lubricated.
They are going to start shaping multiple different charges that Diddy is being accused of. And not only that, they are going to corroborate what Cassie Ventura is saying, because things that they witnessed firsthand being around Cassie. She also alleged that Diddy had a very demeaning behavior towards them and made it very toxic, and that also plays a part into the forced labor charge.
It's difficult to imagine any father being comfortable with their children walking into court, surrounded by supporters, only to hear testimony that dives deep into troubling personal behavior. The idea that young ones are being exposed to such sensitive details is heartbreaking and deeply unsettling.
It's concerning to me that the optics of them being there and supporting father are obviously a very strong play for the defense. The jury is seeing them in there. What kids would sit there through this if they didn't love their daddy and this was not true? I don't think they probably like to hear that either. It's telling to me. It means that daddy's being selfish and he needs, in my opinion, it feels like daddy needs you in court because daddy needs all the optics to look in his favor, and I don't really care what you have to sit through.
Aubrey O'Day is sharing more thoughts on the Diddy trial. During the premiere podcast episode of Amy Robach and TJ Holmes Present, Aubrey O'Day, covering the Diddy trial, released May 16th, the singer gives her opinion on why Sean Diddy Combs' kids are attending the trial.
It's nerve-wracking, but she's ready. She's not going to back down. She wants justice for everyone, the insider said, hinting that O'Day has a project in the works that will be all about the Diddy trial. And Aubrey has also confirmed that she's here in New York City via her Instagram. Here's the other aspect of this. I don't know if you guys saw the Diddy documentary on Max. D. Woods actually shared some interesting details about Diddy and Aubrey's relationship, highlighting a time where Diddy pursued Aubrey. Aubrey has alluded, but she's never said any specifics. That was the first time that I heard specifics in that documentary on Max.
We know that they can corroborate the violence against Cassie Ventura because Dawn Richard said that she saw this several different times, and that plays a part into the trafficking charge, force, fraud, or coercion of Cassie Ventura. But they also play in a big part in the racketeering conspiracy charge. As you can see in the RICO charge, one of Diddy's charges that falls under this big RICO charge with all of these criminal charges underneath of it is forced labor. And in Dawn Richard's lawsuit, she alleged forced labor of her and all of her Danity Kane bandmates. She said that they were forced to work long hours, between 36 to 48 hours, without breaks, without sleep, and even without.
Dawn Richard's testimony has emerged as one of the most impactful moments of this trial. As multiple lawsuits and allegations continue to surface against Diddy, her statements bring insider detail and first-hand experience that could prove pivotal. Richard, a central figure in this case, has filed a lawsuit that includes serious claims of manipulation, mistreatment, and abuse of power. What makes her voice so important is that she isn't repeating rumors. She alleges she personally witnessed troubling incidents, including moments of physical confrontation between Diddy and Cassie Ventura. These are not distant claims. They're first-hand accounts that could strengthen Cassie's case by offering key corroboration. This could mark a major turning point. While Cassie's allegations have already revealed a troubling picture of her experience, Richard's support adds credibility. The fact that someone so close to the situation is echoing those claims may provide exactly the kind of reinforcement the court needs to build a broader understanding of the alleged behavior. But Richard's statements don't stop there. Her lawsuit paints a bleak picture of what it was like to work within Diddy's inner circle. She describes relentless schedules, 36 to 48-hour sessions with no breaks, no meals, and little rest. According to her, this wasn't a one-time situation. It was a pattern, and she says it created a deeply toxic atmosphere for staff and artists alike. She also accuses Diddy of routinely using demeaning and psychologically damaging tactics to maintain control, targeting members of Danity Kane and others with behavior that crossed professional lines. These claims suggest an environment more focused on domination than creativity, raising serious questions about labor rights, mental health, and systemic exploitation. The implications are staggering. Richard's courage to speak out, especially in a case involving a powerful, influential figure, shows the emotional and legal weight this trial carries. Her decision doesn't come without risk. It likely reflects years of personal turmoil and the need to reclaim her story. And in an industry where silence often equals survival, her voice cuts through the fear. Her statements directly support the forced labor and racketeering claims central to this case. They align with what others have said, building a compelling narrative of unchecked control within Diddy's empire. The prosecution appears to be leaning heavily on these accounts to establish a clear pattern, and Richard's words may be the missing link that connects it all. Now, the focus turns to Diddy's legal team. How will they respond? Will they question her motives or challenge her character? No matter their approach, discrediting her won't be simple. Her voice is part of a growing chorus that's difficult to dismiss. Aubrey O'Day may have opened the door with her cryptic post and visible presence at the trial, but Don Richard has taken it a step further, offering a behind-the-scenes look that could change everything. Together, their accounts are starting to form a bigger picture, one that suggests these aren't isolated experiences, but part of a larger system of control. And if Richard's claims stand up under scrutiny, they could pose a serious threat to Diddy's defense. This case is no longer just about individual allegations. It's about challenging a culture of silence and control in the music industry. These testimonies are doing more than informing a courtroom. They're rewriting a legacy, and this might only be the beginning.
And both Aubrey O'Day and Don Richard laying out forced labor allegations will also help victim number 4, who we know is using a pseudonym. And that's because Diddy is being charged with forced labor on victim number 4. And we found out in the opening statements that victim number 4 is an ex-personal assistant of Diddy. A lot of people were thinking that this could be Aubrey O'Day, but based off what we learned already, it's not. But her testimony is going to play a huge part for victim number 4. So not only can they corroborate the violence toward Cassie Ventura, which is a part of her trafficking charge, they can also prove the forced labor charge that falls under the racketeering conspiracy charge, and also help victim number 4, who is an employee of Diddy, who also alleges forced labor. And I'm sure in their testimonies, we're going to get even more context that we probably never even heard about. But either way, Aubrey O'Day and Don Richard's testimonies are going to be huge pieces against Diddy in his trial. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
Diddy have exposed what many say was the harsh reality behind the scenes of his empire. According to Don Richard's powerful testimony, working closely with him was far from glamorous. It was, as she describes, a relentless and dehumanizing experience. Her lawsuit details extreme conditions, including being compelled to work for up to 36 to 48 hours straight, often without food, sleep, or even basic breaks. Imagine not just pulling the occasional all-nighter, but doing so under unrelenting pressure, with no regard for physical or mental well-being. Richard insists this wasn't a rare occurrence. It was the norm. This wasn't just toxic. It was systematic. Richard's accounts are echoed by others, including a former personal assistant, referred to as victim number 4, who described similar conditions. Together, their testimonies form a troubling picture, a workplace where fundamental human needs were allegedly ignored and exploitation was woven into daily life. Her statements go beyond long hours. They expose the psychological toll inflicted on those in Diddy's inner circle. She claims that behind the scenes, his leadership style involved sharp verbal criticism and demeaning treatment, not as isolated incidents, but as part of a calculated environment of control. Working with Diddy, Richard implies, didn't come with status or reward. It came with exhaustion, fear, and submission. But the deeper issue isn't just about poor working conditions. Richard's lawsuit points to a broader system of control, where intimidation and emotional manipulation reinforce silence. According to her, the alleged verbal attacks weren't simply cruel remarks. They served as constant reminders of who held the power. Speaking out felt impossible in an environment where retaliation was always a looming threat. What makes this testimony so significant is how it connects to the larger racketeering and conspiracy charges. These aren't isolated complaints, they form a pattern. Richard's claims parallel those of Cassie Ventura, who also described sustained emotional and physical abuse. The idea of forced labor in this context isn't just about demanding work. It's about stripping away agency until people feel they have no choice but to comply. Even more troubling is how normalized this culture appears to have been. Based on multiple accounts, this wasn't a workplace marked by occasional misconduct. It was an ecosystem where sleep deprivation, verbal aggression, and fear were standard operating procedures. For many, it seemed like part of the job. That normalization is what makes these allegations so serious. They suggest a system in which boundaries were blurred and mistreatment became routine. Why linking these patterns to the broader criminal case, Richard is helping the court and the public understand the depth of what's being alleged. Her testimony doesn't just highlight individual grievances. It paints a larger picture of a power structure built on silence, compliance, and fear, and the impact could go well beyond the courtroom. For years, those connected to Diddy have remained silent, due to NDAs, fear of backlash, or the sheer weight of his influence. But Richard's decision to speak out and the specificity of her claims might inspire others to break that silence. What's being described here isn't just one man's misconduct. It's a system that protected it. If these allegations resonate with the jury and the public, the repercussions could be sweeping. This trial is no longer just about legal charges. It's a reckoning. It's about dismantling a public image and giving a voice to those who felt powerless for far too long. And now, the question remains, who's next? Dawn Richards' testimony may only be the beginning. As more voices come forward, this trial is transforming into something much bigger. It's no longer just about past harm. It's about creating space for truth, accountability, and lasting change. Clip 6. Aubrey O'Day and Dawn Richard are pulling back the curtain on what Sean Diddy Combs has allegedly spent years trying to keep hidden, and the fallout could be massive. Their testimonies are already shaking up the narrative surrounding this case. For years, whispers of Diddy's alleged misconduct have echoed through the industry, but now, two of the most credible voices from his inner circle are stepping forward with what they know, and the question is, what secrets might they reveal that Diddy never wanted the world to hear? Let's start with Aubrey O'Day. As a former member of Danity Kane, she was under Diddy's direction during the height of his power in the music industry. Though years have passed since those days, her recent cryptic message on social media has reignited public attention. You are standing at the edge of the season that will demand your truth in full voice. Many believe it was more than just poetic. It was a warning. A sign that Aubrey is done protecting the legacy of someone she once called a mentor. And if she's ready to speak up about what she saw or experienced, Diddy may be facing far more than legal trouble. He may be facing a total collapse of the public persona he spent decades building. Then comes Dawn Richard, whose testimony has already caused waves. Her detailed account paints a disturbing picture. forced labor, extreme working conditions, and a culture of psychological intimidation. Richard describes being pushed to the brink, working for 36 to 48 hours straight, often without food, sleep, or basic rest. But it's not just about harsh working hours. It's about control. Her testimony suggests that silence was enforced, loyalty was demanded, and speaking out was not an option. The system, she claims, was designed that way.
Next wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist
or sheer influence. But what makes this moment different is that people like O'Day and Richard are now willing to defy that silence. Their stories risk exposing not just individual incidents, but a broader pattern of behavior that could unravel Diddy's carefully constructed empire. And the media is paying attention. Speculation is growing over what these women might reveal next. Could they have first-hand knowledge tying Diddy to elements of the racketeering and trafficking charges? Could their accounts support Cassie Ventura's explosive claims of abuse? Whatever they know, one thing is certain. The pressure is building. This trial is no longer just about lawsuits or headlines. It's about tearing down a legacy built on fear and silence. With insiders finally stepping into the light, this could mark the beginning of a larger reckoning. O'Day and Richard's courage is sending a message. If they can speak, others might too. Could new witnesses come forward? Could additional charges be filed? That remains to be seen. But the ripple effect is real, and it's growing. The image of Diddy as the untouchable mogul is crumbling. As more